Hey students, it's Emily Poole. Let's talk about the age of exploration. Say it with me now. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. But why was he able to do that? Well, because of advances in navigational technology that the Europeans had gotten from the rest of the world. Things like the compass and the lateen sail from Asia, quadrant and the astrolabe from the Islamic world, allowed these Europeans to set sail west across the Atlantic. Students, don't be confused here. Columbus wanted to specifically get involved in Indian Ocean trade. He didn't want to go through the Ottoman Empire because they were taxing people and he wanted to avoid that tax. So, after many years of trying to convince many monarchs that he knew what he was doing, he sets west across the Atlantic Ocean, thinking that he's going to land in India, but ends up landing in the Caribbean. Boy, was that a lucky mistake, because this new world was the Europeans for the taking. These Europeans, with their guns, germs, and steel, were able to decimate and subjugate indigenous American populations and establish their own colonies. And while Britain, Spain, and France get extremely involved in the Americas, the Dutch and the Portuguese get incredibly involved in the Eastern Indian Ocean region. These European powers want access to gold and spices and luxury goods because it supports their wealth and therefore power. And this is where mercantilism emerges as an economic policy. Countries want to export more than they import because that's going to give them a favorable balance of trade. If you have colonies that you can extract all of those resources from, process through them back in your own country, and then sell them back to the colonies, that's given you a pretty favorable balance of trade. So while these European colonizers were motivated, yes, by gold and glory, they were also motivated by God. Specifically, Jesuit Catholic missionaries were very active in settling the Americas. And Christianity became the stimulus for exploration to bring people to the one true faith, but then also became a means of subjugating local native populations. Students, I got to talk here about one of my most favorite friars, Bartolome de las Casas. He came over to the Caribbean, ended up owning indigenous peoples, but then witnessed their brutal mistreatment by the Spanish and wrote an essay, a seminal essay called In the Defense of the Indians in 1548. He spent so much time fighting for the better treatment of the indigenous peoples in the Americas and wrote so many letters to Habsburg leader Charles V that Charles V ended up passing the new laws in 1542. And these laws, again, by Charles V, the head of the Habsburg family, so therefore the head of the Spanish colonies in the Americas, said, you know what? Yeah, we're doing this wrong. These laws were intended to prevent the exploitation and mistreatment of indigenous peoples in the Americas. And while they were partially followed, because, the colonists were upset about that, they did result in the liberation of thousands of indigenous enslaved peoples. Big Bartolome de las Casas fan, because it shows that you can, in fact, have a redemption story. Hope this helped, and as always, you can do it. I believe in you.